Greetings and welcome to Xavia Talks. Ha, gotcha. You know I wouldn't start the show like that. Hey everybody, welcome to Xavia Talks, and this is our second edition of Heartbreak and Healing with who? Your favorite, Dr. Sonia Kennedy. Today we are going to really focus on heartbreak and healing. We are going to have a special guest, Patrick Shaffer, Love Again. So today's show topic, we're going to focus on divorce and healing from divorce. So all of you who can relate to this topic, you definitely want to tune in for all of the following segments. Of course, there's going to be some great information, just as Dr. Sonia Kennedy gave us a lot of great information and a few laughs last time. So, with no further ado, I'm going to bring on the lady who's going to, of course, show us her shoes, Dr. Sonia Kennedy.
Alright, so yeah, last segment I said I was going to be wearing some fabulous shoes and show those off, so we're going to show the heels again. And these are actually Gwen Stefani lamb, so I'm feeling these today. Hopefully I'm rocking them. And
as promised, we have a special guest today. Some of you may know him from Facebook, as I believe he has 3,900 friends. Here he comes, Mr. Patrick Shaffer.
So I want to definitely thank everybody for tuning in to my segment, as well as some of the other segments. Make sure you guys log on, sign up for Xbox Talks. You'll find a wealth of information. Today, and I know the last segment we talked about on Facebook and whether or not it was breaking up relationships, we kind of laughed and we joked about some of this stuff, but today we're going to take a little bit more of a serious turn, and I want to start thinking about how we go about spring cleaning, because spring is in the air. Everybody's cleaning house or dusting or getting the maid service to come in for those of us that can still afford that. But when you start talking about cleaning house, you know, are we mentally cleaning house? And I think that is more of where I'm taking this, because the purging process of when you're throwing old stuff out, clothes you can't fit, shoes you no longer want anymore, you toss that readily because you figure you're going to buy some more stuff or buy some new stuff, or if you lost weight, right, you want to buy some clothes that fit, or you want to show off your new curves or what have you, or for guys the muscles, okay, and we're waiting on summer here in Chicago, but yeah, really spring hasn't came. I think it's just going to zoom right into summer, but we're waiting. But while we're doing it, we're cleaning with no problem, we're throwing stuff out, but mentally we're still holding on to stuff. We're not releasing it, we're not purging, we're not cleaning, or cleansing, I should say. We're not doing any of that. And some of the stuff which is, I think, pertinent, especially for today, it's coming back up again because we're holding on to it. So what I wanted to talk about were 5 quick ways to kind of check ourselves as we're cleaning house so that we can create a new vision. And so I just had some really, really quick pointers. And one of them was acknowledging where we are. You know, can I acknowledge, or am I willing to acknowledge what's going on with me, whether I'm angry, whether I'm frustrated, whether or not I played a part in whatever the emotional situation is, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's relationships, but am I willing to acknowledge where I'm at? And so our first point is acknowledging where you are, Xavia. I think that's the most essential piece of it, whatever that part is, whether it's acknowledging I'm angry, frustrated, acknowledging my role in the situation, acknowledging how I allow others to situate myself. So I think that, you know, while we're cleaning, we got to start with point number 1.
You know what, one of the things that I found interesting that you said, because I remember from the last one, you said acknowledging that we're angry, and you said that anger is a secondary
emotion.
So our first would be acknowledging that we're hurt, which is what makes us angry.
Yes.
Okay. See, I'm learning.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how did that fit into your process? Why don't you kind of tell us your story a little bit, and then relate it to how acknowledging where you are fit into your...
Well, I was married very early on. I'm a church kid, so married very early on, and of quickly realized that the necessary relational skills that you need in order to make love last or have a fulfilling relationship, we didn't have. Ultimately, the relationship, the marriage ended the way it ended in divorce. And it spent a lot of time spiraling, trying to catch myself. You know, and as African Americans, what you to talk about the issue of pain, many of us use a lot of different things to kind of run from our pain, right? So if it's pain, we don't want to deal with it. So we'll go to church or join a yoga class or go shopping or we eat. We do all of these things. And so one of the things I think is important from a spiritual perspective is to understand that God is the God of our realities. And if you don't allow God to break into that reality, then you spend your time chasing yourself around, stumbling through relationships that ultimately don't work, until you realize that when you are left alone, you have to be able to remember God deep down on the inside of you. And I think that's where healing starts. At that point, I think God is able to break into our pain and help us to be able to kind of put the pieces back together for men and for women.
Sure.
Because one of the things, what I write about in the book, is that for men, we do a lot not to deal with our feelings and not to deal with our emotions. You all readily talk about it, or you all here having a conversation about it.
Right.
You definitely probably not going to find a man who will sit on the couch and kind of talk about, you know, this is the way I felt, this is the way she made me feel. So we do a lot. We get involved with our work, we find another relationship, you know, whatever it is. But you're right, it starts at the point that we can acknowledge that this is where life is for me right now. This is the way I feel about it. This is what is happening. And when we embrace that moment, I think that's the starting point where we reconstruct our lives.
So when you embrace that moment, where did you find yourself?
Alone. Which is a place where ultimately we don't want to be, you know. But absolutely, I think happiness, self-fulfillment starts with you. If you're not there, whatever you've come through, all of us have this desire to not just love, but to be loved by somebody. And ultimately, when those things break down and the intentions of our relationship doesn't work out the way we planned it, sometimes we just move and say, oh, I want to just let me get away from it. So I divorced. Didn't understand that I had all this pain coursing through myself. So what I said, okay, somebody want me to get back out there, date somebody else, only to find out that the same situation that kind of happened before was happening now, and I'm recreating this nightmare and this cycle in my life. And it's only when I say, okay, you know what, it's I'm not getting out of life and these relationships what I want. I have to kind of put that on the back burner, and now it's me. And the reality of it, there's a lot of alone nights. Chicago, it can get very cold in the winter. The nights are very long. Let me say, all those things play a part of it. And so it feeds your depression sometimes. But I believe from the bottom of my heart that if we embrace our realities, God is able to break through those and help us reconstruct our lives again.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of perfect segue actually, into point number 2, and that is, am I willing to relinquish control, and be okay to the universe? I mean, because we're not in control. As he said earlier, we ultimately, God has a say so in how, we move and our paths and what we do. I mean, we have our own choice of free will, of course, but ultimately when you're relinquishing control, or because a lot of us don't, we don't like to not know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
We want to know what's going to happen. We like to plan our day. This is how we're going to work. We want to make sure that, everything goes in a certain order, right? I mean, be on time, be present. Here's what I'm going to do. Here are the 5 things I'm going to accomplish today. And if it's 10, normally it's 3 that you really get done and get done well. But that control piece, particularly when you're going through this process of healing, particularly from a relationship or a loss of a relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be a marriage or a partnership that's dissolved. It could be a grieving of a sort where someone may have died in your family or something like that. All of it is a process though of letting go of that control. And what really drives that is fear of the unknown. And so are you willing to allow fear to be the propelling point that situates you to say, hey, you know what? I have no control of the outcome of this. I'm acknowledging that, this hurts. I'm feeling right about this. This is funky. I'm going, like you say, I'm going through all these different emotions and stuff, and this isn't working for me. Even recreating this whole thing all over again. It looks different because it's a different babe or a different guy or whatever, but you know, here's this control. You're saying, hey, you know what? Hands up. My hands are off of it.
You know, and see, I feel like, you know, I went through my little heartbreak thing last year or something like that, and it could just be me, my personality, but for me, the loss of control came up front because I didn't have control over the relationship or the situation. It wasn't going the way that I wanted it to go, so it was the loss of control. It was, I guess, I feel like it was backward to me. So
Okay.
giving up the control, I don't feel like I had control. Did you feel like you had control?
Well, I think that's very important, especially for us to have these conversations. But why do people stalk other people?
Yeah.
You know, why are people in abusive relationships?
Sure.
Why do you got to bust somebody's window out their car, right? It's about power. It's about your right. The whole song, like, we hum that, like it's cool, but really it's about somebody fighting for control. It's about power. It's about pain. And when we can't control another person's will,
Absolutely.
we can't make them love us the way we want them to love us. We can't make them to give us. We get angry, but again, there goes anger. It's a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
Primary emotion is fear. What is the fear? Of the unknown.
Absolutely.
That if I let this relationship go and this person says they don't want to be with me,
Sure.
what will I have next? Will I ever have anything? And sometimes we stay in bad relationships
Yes.
because it beats no relationship at all. Only because we don't want to get back to the starting point where it's just us. And can you be okay with that? Can you be okay with, I don't know if I ever have the love that I want to have, but if I have it, that's okay. If I don't, I'm okay, and I don't have to manipulate, control, stalk, beat, abuse anybody to try to get them to love me.
Right,
You know,
right.
and I think that's important for us to have that conversation because we can see from the East Coast to the West Coast all type of very abusive, dysfunctional relationships where
Yes.
people act out only because they can't control another person.
Absolutely, and I think that fear part is huge because fear stifles us a lot of times, and I'm totally opposite, and I hear what you're saying. Like you felt like you didn't have control, but it's still that fear that drives us to engage or indulge in certain things that we probably shouldn't, or to think those thoughts about breaking somebody's car window or something. But most of us rationalize, oh, that's not a good thing, but it's still fear. It's either going to stifle you or it's going to propel you forward. And what I'm saying is, once you, whether you acknowledge the control or whether you release the control, that fear should decrease. It shouldn't increase in its intensity. And it should be a situation where on a daily you're practicing, hey, I'm not in control of this. I am going to move about in the universe as if these things, whatever happens, is going to happen, but I'm going to have enough armor to deal with whatever does happen.
And I think you have to get fear out of the room.
Yes.
Because fear always robs
Yes.
you. Fear always talks you out of opportunities. It talks you out of love. It talks you out of, most importantly, you recognizing how valuable you are. If you fear being alone and fear brings somebody in your life and then they leave your life, what are you left with? And so fear always takes you beyond yourself and you never realize how valuable you are. And I think once you get fear out of the room, you can be comfortable in a place of peace to say, you know what, the best gift I bring anything is myself.
Sure.
And the more I develop myself, the more I know me, the more I don't have to control who comes in and out because I always have something.
So